So we got Joshua Buatsi taking on Craig Spider Richards this weekend at the O2 Arena in London. Battle of South London derby. You got Joshua Buatsi from Croydon and Craig Richards, I believe, is from Crystal Palace. Yup, from Crystal Palace. Now, I think that Richards will be going into this fight with increased confidence. I'm sure he had a certain degree of confidence anyway, but his confidence would have been boosted by the fact that, according to him and according to many other people, he actually did better against Dimitri Bivol than Canelo Alvarez did. I think he even said that in a recent interview. Well, you take confidence from wherever you need to take confidence from. But when I look at Dimitri Bivol when he fought Craig Spider Richards, I see a guy who was coming off a layoff. I see a guy who maybe wasn't that up for the fight against an opponent, no disrespect to Richards, who on the world stage isn't known. And it wasn't a particularly impressive performance by Dimitri Bivol. I think I even said that at the time. But styles make fights. Craig Richards is like 6'1". In fact, I should talk about Craig Richards' height because it's listed as 6'1", and this is where I'm baffled. Dimitri Bivol is listed at 6 feet. If you look at Bivol and Richards in the ring, Richards is clearly more than an inch taller than Bivol. That's got to be at least 2 inches. So isn't he 6'2" rather than 6'1"? That's assuming Dimitri Bivol's a legitimate 6 foot, which he seems to be. But then you look at Richards face to face with Joshua Buatsi, and he appears to be a shade shorter. Now, Buatsi is listed at 6'2". I've seen Buatsi in person, and he definitely is a 6'2". Okay, so you got 6'2" Buatsi. Richards looks a shade shorter than that. I know you got Buatsi's hair up here. You could say they may be the same height, but the eye level of Richards are shorter, lower. So I don't know. You try and make of that what you will. Maybe Buatsi had thicker soles on his shoes or something. Maybe he was doing a Tyson Fury and standing on his tiptoes. I don't know. Anyway, getting back to the fighters, Joshua Buatsi and Craig Spider Richards. Richards is a guy who, as we saw in the Bivol fight, uses his height and his slight lankiness to make it awkward for his opponents. He is very passive often in fights, Craig Spider Richards. And in his last fight, I forget the guy's name now. Yeah, this guy here, Marek Matia. It was frustrating watching him for the first few rounds because he was so passive and he was actually getting hit with shots, decent shots in there. And he appeared to lack fire. He wasn't firing back at this guy. He was letting this guy pressure him. He wasn't active enough. And I was thinking, and even the commentators at the time were saying, Richards is too much of a nice guy. He doesn't have enough spite. He doesn't have enough meanness, enough viciousness in there. And that's a reoccurring theme in Craig Spider Richards' career, going all the way back. I mean, when he lost to Frank Buglioni back in 2017. But he found that meanness in the 6th round against Matia and managed to get the stoppage there. So maybe this lack of meanness is just Craig Spider Richards playing possum in certain instances. I don't know. Well, whatever the case may be, he'll need the meanness against Joshua Buatsi because Buatsi is a guy similar to Richards outside the ring in that he comes across as laid back, very respectful and polite in the way he communicates and what have you. But inside the ring, he's the exact opposite. In fact, Joshua Buatsi in several fights has been quite dirty inside the ring. And of course, we don't condone that. The referees are there to cut down on all that kind of stuff. But when a fighter is dirty like that, it shows he has a certain edge to him. And I'll give an example. I was having a conversation, many conversations with Thibaut, who's a French guy I've spoken about many times before, did several videos with him on his YouTube channel. Well, on my YouTube channel, but, you know, collaboration between 2 YouTube channels. His is called Jack Napier Boxing. It used to be anyway, Jack Napier Boxing. And he was talking about the likes of Alexander Povetkin, Anthony Joshua, etc., being polite fighters. These are guys who don't really fight dirty. They like to generally fight within the rules. And even though that's a noble thing, we were discussing the fact that it could actually be a form of weakness in some instances. Because with Povetkin, for example, when he was fouled beyond any kind of reasonable degree against Vladimir Klitschko, he didn't respond. He just allowed Klitschko to throw him about, pull him around the back of the neck, lean on him, so Klitschko's feet were literally leaving the canvas. It was absolutely absurd. If there'd been fair officiating in that fight, Klitschko would have had multiple point deductions and eventually been disqualified for carrying on like that. That's how extreme it was. But Povetkin didn't respond with any dirty fighting of his own. Anthony Joshua can be kind of similar, where when he's in a real tough fight, the other guy will be getting dirty and AJ won't really respond with anything dirty. You know, it's almost as if he doesn't have that street fighter in him, that ability to, no matter what, no matter how, impose your will upon the other guy. If the other guy ups the ante, you up the ante even more. And you got to leave it to the referee and the other officials and the teams to calm it all down. You see it? Well, Joshua Buatsi has that. He has the eye of the tiger. He's a mean guy in the ring, and he's quite dirty at times, right? Because he'll do anything it takes to get that W. And I think that that's going to be the difference in this fight against Craig Spider Richards. I think that Buatsi is a meaner guy. I think he's more proactive in the way that he fights, walks you down, drags you into something. And as we've seen, anyone who's been in a firefight with Joshua Buatsi has come off second best. I'm not saying he's going to be able to win a firefight against everybody, particularly at world level, but at this kind of level here against the Spider Richards of the world, and maybe you could say this is a world level fight too, because Spider Richards has fought for the world title. But yeah, against this kind of guy in Richards, I don't think that Buatsi's going to come off second best in a firefight. The question is whether he can drag Craig Spider Richards into a firefight. And that's not to say that Buatsi is some slugger who needs to drag you into a firefight to win. No, he is a skilled operator, Joshua Buatsi. But that's where he's at home. He likes to put the pressure on you and force you into a situation where he can start unloading hooks and mid-range punches, really. He can do the long-range stuff, but he prefers to fight at mid and close range. Craig Spider Richards, on the other hand, really likes to keep things long and be awkward and look for moments where he can catch you with the right hand. So, going to be an interesting fight. It's a good fight. I like it, but I am definitely going with Joshua Buatsi to beat Craig Spider Richards. I have to go by not only the form book in terms of the fact that Richards has lost a few fights, but also the mentality. As I said before, I think that Joshua Buatsi's mentality, I think his will is stronger than Craig Richards' will, and he'll be able to impose it upon his opponent to get that victory. Like I said earlier, I'm sure Richards is going to be coming into this with fresh confidence off the back of Bivol's performance against Canelo. He's going to feel like, okay, if we use that as a measuring stick, as a yardstick, maybe I'm actually better than I thought. Because if Canelo is getting completely outboxed by Bivol to that extent, and I'm having more success than him, does that mean I'm better than Canelo? I mean, I'm sure these kind of questions are going on in Craig Richards' head. Perhaps he wouldn't articulate that. Perhaps he wouldn't say that to the public because they might get onto him about being arrogant or deluded or whatever. But I'm just telling you, from a perspective of someone who used to fight, these are the things you think. This is the winner's mentality. Sometimes when you come out with it, yeah, it's going to come across as arrogant and people are going to say you're delusional and all this kind of stuff. But you can't achieve success without thinking that way. You have to think, if you're going to go into boxing, that you're the bee's knees. That you're the best man, right? You have to. Because if you don't think of yourself in that way, you're never going to be able to get in there and look at Joshua Buatsi in the eye and actually try and stick it on him. You won't be able to do that. You'll crumble in the moment. So you have to have a tremendous amount of belief. You have to have an ego sufficient to believe you can go in there and win these fights. So I'm sure Craig's Spider Richards ego took a little boost from the Bivol Canelo fight, but ultimately I don't think it will be enough. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And before I go, let me just look at the undercard here because I heard some people saying it was poor. We got Alan Babich versus Adam Balski. I don't know who Balski is. Doesn't even look like a boxer. His face here. Polish guy, 31 years of age, 6'2", 75-inch reach. I'm assuming this is going to be a bridgerweight fight because I saw some interview with Babich and Eddie Hearn and they were talking about bridgerweight. Doesn't actually say the weight category here. This will be over 12 rounds. Okay. No title on the line here. This individual appears to be a cruiserweight, fought at a 200-pound limit his whole career. Babich said that he walks through these smaller guys. It's much easier for him because when he fights big guys, he breaks his hand every time. But when he fights smaller guys, walk in the park. We'll see. So I am always interested in watching Alan Babich just for the entertainment factor because he is a savage, you know. Robbie Davis Jr., okay. Against Javier Molina. That's for the WBA Continental Super Lightweight title. The WBA, one of their numerous titles. Chantel Cameron. Okay, they got a few female fights on here. Siobhan Clark. Is that Cruz? No. Okay, that's one of Eddie Hearn's recent signings, isn't it? 31 years of age, though. God, he's getting up there in age. Needs to get a move on. John Hedges. Okay, so yeah, the undercard does look weak, as others had said to me. But the main event, I think, is an interesting fight. I'm expecting Joshua Buatsi to win it. Would I be completely shocked if Craig Spider Richards pulled off the upset? No, of course not. I wouldn't be monumentally shocked. But if I had to put a percentage on it, I'm saying 65-35 in Buatsi's favor. That's the way I see it in my head. 65-35. I may even push it to 70-30. No disrespect to Craig Spider Richards, but I just do think that Buatsi has the style and he has the will and the skills to defeat this guy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below.